It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games. Looking for music that lifts your spirit and fills your heart? Experience the powerful sound of the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square. Now streaming on all your favorite music platforms. Find the Tabernacle Choir on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Pandora. Let the music of the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square inspire you today and every day. Whether you're at home, in the car, or on the go, enjoy the beauty of their world-renowned sound anytime. The Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, streaming now.
DJ and PK, it's time to welcome Greg Wyshynski back to the show, senior NHL writer at ESPN. Greg, good morning.
Good morning. Greetings from Raleighwood here in North Carolina. It's a glamorous place. I know that the other city in this series gets a lot of shine for being glamorous, but let me tell you what, Raleigh, North Carolina, baby. That's the glitz and glamour in this series.
Well, we know when they wanted to go big time, Andy and Barney would go into Raleigh, and they'd party.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. I've been thinking a lot about Mayberry lately because of the death of Ted Turner and the fact that the Andy Griffith Show when I was a kid would start at like 6:05 on Turner Broadcasting System. And the reason he did that is because he didn't want people flipping around the channel. So I've been thinking a lot about Andy and Barney lately, actually.
And Barney had to watch out because they say nothing good happens after midnight. I think for Barney, a lot of times nothing good happened when he went to Raleigh.
Well, a lot of good stuff happened for the Golden Knights last night when they went to Raleigh. Let me tell you that.
I would say a lot of good stuff happened to you. I'm sure you've covered good games, bad games, and mediocre games. That was pretty wild. Literally from the opening minute. And the thing that shocked me is these two teams defensively have been awesome. The last two series, I think Vegas given up 2 goals a game, and Carolina's given up less than that while going 12-1 in the Eastern playoffs. And then 9 goals? I mean, what the heck happened? Yeah. I mean, obviously there are a couple of really bad giveaways that you can't say, well, that's on the defense because the giveaways were horrific. But nonetheless, there were some major mistakes.
It's a combination of two things. I mean, I asked Seth Jarvis of the Hurricanes that question last night, like, did you expect there to be this much scoring? And he said, look, man, this is like 2 really good, deep offensive teams. Like we know what Vegas has, where they've got guys like Thomas Hertl and Mark Stone playing on their third line. But, Carolina was the best offensive team Rod Brind'Amour ever coached this season insofar as their offensive depth. So it was there on both sides to have this kind of game. But that being said, I think a lot of people expected game one at the very least to be a bit more of a chess match. And I think you had the other part of the equation last night, which is that the Golden Knights forecheck and pressure really rattled Carolina into making some regrettable mistakes all over the ice. And on the other side, as much as obviously Freddie Anderson had a rough go of it, giving up 5 goals, I thought Carter Hart was a sieve last night. Like, I was very unimpressed with the game that he had. And there were some goals that he let by that he probably should have stopped. So all those things combined for it to be an incredibly high-scoring game one, which, for those of you who wager out there, beat the over in the second period, which is not something that you'd expect between these two teams.
Yeah, that's funny when you say that in the second period. You look at now obviously we've been following Vegas very closely because that's going to be forever and ever the Mammoths' first playoff opponent. And, it was a tight series. It was fun. The last game got away a little bit, but, they were actually up in the series for a bit. And so we kind of think, oh, well, the Mammoth, man, they're going to end up giving them the best round or series. We'll see how it plays out. But Vegas, to me, with the coaching change, with just a few weeks to go, I'm wondering, how did they catch this lightning in a bottle like this?
So that's a great point, which is that it is lightning in a bottle, and I think that the Utah series might have been when they were the most vulnerable. Tortorella comes in with what was it, like 8 games left in the season. And, he takes over, he puts in his system. They're still learning it. They're still learning about each other. Carter Hart, I think, like I said, he had a rough ride last night, but his round one was his worst round. He's gotten progressively better as the playoffs have gone on. Torts came in at a time when things were starting to kind of trend in the right direction a little bit for Vegas, especially from a health perspective. The return of William Karlsson, their lineup, a guy that was one of the original Golden Misfits back when they were an expansion team, really kind of resets their lineup in a pretty great way. It allows Mitch Marner to play on the wing. Karlsson's a great two-way center. It really allowed them to sort of reset their lineup in the way that it should be. And so they're getting healthier. They're playing a little bit better. Torts comes in. He gives them the kick in the rear that they need to kind of focus on their details and play aggressive hockey. And again, like Utah caught them at the right time. I think the first round was when they were most vulnerable, but then you see what they did against Anaheim, and then obviously you see what they did against, half of Colorado, because the other half should have been in a hospital bed during that series with how many injuries they had. And then we see last night the trend continues.
There's a part of me that looks at this and thinks, well, Utah was basically in the middle of the standings in the regular season, and they didn't have any playoff experience. They got knocked out in the first round. There's clearly a tier teams in the West that are better than them, and it's a long road to go. But then you watch what Vegas is doing, and you're thinking, how big is the gap given the random nature of the sport and the playoffs? We've seen hot teams before. Like, how far away are the Mammoth? I'm trying to read this.
Well, there is a gap, and I think one of the things that you heard from people after watching that Vegas series from around the NHL is, the size differential between Vegas and Utah and Vegas, some other teams in the West. I mean, if there's a trend in the NHL, it's this big physical team. Florida winning back-to-back cups with the way that they played, Vegas playing the way that they play with a bit of size and skill. And so, that's one thing that maybe Utah should take away from that series, is just to kind of maybe get a little bit bigger. But the other thing that's really interesting about Utah right now, and if you want to use Vegas as the proxy for this, Vegas has built this team not through the draft and not through prospects, but by trading away all of those things to get elite players that are in their prime. And, one of the things that Bill Armstrong's going to have to kind of figure out is how much of this deep prospect pool will eventually bubble up to be on the Mammoth roster, and how much of it could he then turn around and trade to upgrade parts of his roster in the way that Vegas has been aggressive, and in some ways in the way that Carolina has been aggressive too in making some of those deals. So they're blessed with a lot of really good players down, in the minor leagues and college and Canadian junior. They're just going to have to start to figure out whether they're going to let these guys ripen and be part of the team at a low contract cost, or turn them around into higher priced veteran players.
Of all the playoff sports that we have, the most fickle thing in terms of momentum, I think, is found in hockey. Get your opinion on it. We talk about momentum, but momentum can change so quickly in hockey. Is there really such a thing as momentum?
I think there is. And John Tortorella actually mentioned that in his press conference last night. Yeah, the idea that, and I think in his case, momentum is like, let's take care of these guys before they figure out what they did wrong. Carolina's a good hockey team. I mean, they were 12-1 in the Eastern Conference. They got out to that 2-0 lead last night. You could tell that they were rattled. You could tell that they were off their details, and there are things that they can clean up. And I think what Tortorella is saying is, momentum is on our side in the sense that we have a 1-0 lead. If we take a 2-0 lead back to Vegas, chances are we're going to win this series. But, now Carolina's going to have to really kind of dig in a little bit and figure out what was so magical about their run in the East, and can they replicate some of those things in this series against what is easily the best opponent that they've played. But again, like you said, I mean, momentum is a tricky thing in the NHL because it could carry you through a few games in a series, or it's something that a goaltender could stop with one great night. It's always a tricky thing to measure when you're in the playoffs.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
And I would have thought that Carolina was doing exactly what they wanted. I mean, they just didn't allow Montreal to get that many get that many shots off, and they held Vegas to 4 shots in the first period. So in a way, I think they have momentum. But does that come back to where you talk about big physical defense, gave them problems, they lost the puck in some really bad spots, and that's why the momentum flips so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, the game plan last night for Vegas was pressure them on the puck as much as you can, hit them as much as you can in their own zone, disrupt the way they break out of their zone. And they weren't doing that in the first 10 or 11 minutes of the game. And then John Tortorella kind of went up and down the bench and in a quite animated way gave his guys a refresher on what they should be doing in the game. And then, like you said, I mean, Carolina was definitely doing Carolina things in the first period insofar as the restriction on shots on goal. But then you look in the second period, and all of a sudden, Vegas had crept within like 2 shots of Carolina for the game. And so things definitely turned as the game went on, and Carolina was unable to do the things that they usually do to dominate while Vegas exerted their will. And so it's going to be on Carolina to either figure out how to get back to that puck control, spend all game in the other team's zone kind of hockey, or they're going to have to figure out something tactically to not get rattled when Vegas is doing that to them.
I look at Carter Hart, and he's been something that people have pointed to as stabilizing Vegas as the season went on, right? And as I'm watching, and then boom, the goal right there off the bat, and then later on, I'm thinking this isn't one of his better games compared to what we've seen. But yet, after they take the lead, he gets that incredible save where he gets the glove on it and flips it up in the air. And I kind of thought, well, it wasn't his best game, but when he had to have it, he had it, right?
Yeah. And my mantra for the playoffs and goaltending is always like, you don't have to steal a series for me. You just have to not lose it for me, and so, there were moments last night where I thought Hart kept the Hurricanes in the game with some of the pucks he didn't stop. That one shot from Gostisbehere that went through a Vegas player's legs, that's almost an unscreened shot that he obviously should stop, and it nearly cost him the third period. But then he comes back and has that amazing save, obviously, on Jarvis later in the period when they needed it. And, beyond that, Mitch Marner with an incredible block with his skate in the waning minutes of the game to maybe prevent a goal. So you're right. I mean, essentially, the performance wasn't great. If you look at the analytics, he demonstrably had a worse game than Freddie Anderson, who I think his defense really let him down more than anything else. But he came away with the W, and he made the stops at the right time that they needed.
What adjustments do you expect in Game 2 from either team, or is it simply with Carolina more poise on the puck and Vegas just keep doing what you're doing, or are there going to be some wrinkles?
Yeah, I wonder if Carolina is going to tweak their breakouts a little bit, just try to change some things up tactically, because I think the Golden Knights have them game planned pretty good right now. Like I said, there are some things that are just going to get cleaned up naturally insofar as the nerves aren't going to be there. Maybe some of these guys aren't going to play as average games as they played in Game 1, knowing that the stakes are now even higher with the Golden Knights leading 1-0 in this series. I think the pickle for Carolina right now is there's one part of their team that's really not working, and that's their top line with Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, and Seth Jarvis. They've been able to get away with that for 3 rounds, basically, because of how good the rest of the team is playing. But, last night, that outside of that one shift in the third where Hart makes that great save, they were a complete non-factor, and in fact were ineffective, giving up the puck after a minute and, less than a minute in the zone and turning the puck over. I mean, they were really bad. And the problem for them is there's really kind of no way to fix that line with breaking it up, because you don't want to mess with your checking line. You don't want to mess with Taylor Hall's line, because those have been great. And so those 3 have to kind of figure it out. And Rod Brindamore said last night, you need your top guys to hit the scoreboard. It's not good enough to be putting shots on goal or whatever. You need results, and that line has not gotten results for 4 rounds now.
You look at one of the stats you had in your story, 75% You win, you go on here. So are you favoring Vegas? You still think it's see what happens?
I still think it's see what happens. I mean, I picked Carolina in 6. Not feeling great about it after game 1, if we're being honest. But I'll stick with it. I covered Carolina for the last 2 rounds. I think they've shown a lot of resiliency. I mean, don't forget they lost game 1 of the Montreal series in the conference final pretty spectacularly. And that was one where you're like, oh my God, is this a fraud, or are we watching a team that is going to see their fortunes change? I still think they did enough last night in a positive way that it encourages you. They can figure some things out. I love the way that they battled back in that game and, knotted up the score a bunch of times. But this is a different, they talked about it before the series that this is going to be a different challenge. And Jarvis said it last night. It's the Stanley Cup Final. Like it should be your toughest series, and it clearly is. And they're going to have to really adjust to depth of talent on the Golden Knights side, and also just how they can really disrupt what you do with that Tortorella system and the way that they pressure the puck.
It's interesting you say it's clearly the toughest series, because if you look at the regular season results, I mean, the East was so good with 5 teams over 100 points. And Vegas, I don't even know if they knew they were getting in the playoffs a month before the playoffs started. But here we are. You just think it's hands down this is the Carolina's biggest test.
It is. And here's the thing, like there's a lot of people in the West that didn't watch the Hurricanes at all in the playoffs that really think they got an easy ride. And I'm like, no, man, like that Ottawa team in the first round, people thought they could be a dark horse in the East, and Carolina swept them. And then the Flyers aren't great, but they had the league's hottest goalie at the time, and they got swept. And then Montreal comes hopping in, and they're on fire. They won 2 consecutive 7-game series. And after a bad first game that came after the longest layoff between 2 rounds the NHL has seen in 107 years, so they're a little rusty. Carolina kicked their teeth in for 4 games. So, I still am hopeful that we're going to see a bounce back here and have a good long series between these 2 teams, because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's been some brevity in these playoffs insofar as the series go. But last night was discouraging. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like the depth and the aggressiveness of that Golden Knights team and the swagger with which they play, I think were things that Carolina maybe wasn't prepared for.
When I think of where you're at in the country, I think of college basketball and probably auto racing. I'm wondering, what's the level of buzz over this series? Is it just taking over?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is a place where they had a moment of silence before one of the games for Bush, and then they had the arena is literally on the NC State campus here in Raleigh. The buzz is interesting because, like, I think when you go through some of these neighborhoods and you're visiting businesses, it doesn't feel like it does in some towns where it's inescapable. When you see flags all over the place and people in jerseys and stuff. But then, like, once you get to the arena, it feels like you're in the greatest hockey town ever. I mean, everybody gets there early to tailgate. People love this team. The arena is loud. You could probably count on one hand the number of Golden Knights fans that were in the building last night, which isn't often the case when you have a Stanley Cup Final. You usually have people spending thousands of dollars to get into these games, but it wasn't the case last night. So I like this market a lot, and it, there's a certain amount of like sentimentality I have towards Rod Brindamore and his team. I mean, he's coached here for 15 years as an assistant and as a head coach, and that was after winning a Stanley Cup as a player in Carolina. Like, I think there's some stat where, like, there's only been 2 playoff wins that this franchise has had that he hasn't been a part of. Like, it's crazy. So, there's a connection between this coach and the community, a connection between this team, the community, and it's definitely on display on a game night here.
And yet, you're going to get out of town just as it hits 90, and you're going to fly to Vegas, and it's going to be 105 degrees or whatever. So you say the sentimentality, but
listen, I live in Brooklyn. Summer in New York is lovely. but it's also like walking through a waterfall as far as the humidity goes. So like I have never had an issue with the dry heat in Vegas. Like it feels like a sauna to me. Like it feels so nice. And so I'm a big Vegas guy to begin with. Like I've always kind of like connected with that town for whatever reason. It's been kind of a fun thing to have it be such a part of my life because the Golden Knights made the conference final in 5 of their 9 years of existence. And again, you talk about the environment here. I mean, as you guys know, the environment in Vegas for those games is just tremendous. So I'm looking forward to games 3 and 4 at the very least. Who knows how many we'll have after that, but we know there's at least 2 in Vegas coming up.
I'm looking, Greg, at a list from people from Mattawan, New Jersey, and you're right there in terms of fame. Maybe Jim Jeffcoat. Do you remember him?
Jim Jeffcoat, yeah. Jim
Dallas
Jeffcoat
Cowboys.
is
Arizona State.
Yeah, and I believe they count Sonny from WWE back in the Attitude Era as being part of Mattawan, I think, last time I checked. Yeah, no, I now here's the thing, though. I got an email from my old high school last year that said I had been nominated for my high school's Hall of Fame.
Nice.
And I had to put all this stuff together. It took a while. I think I might have missed a deadline, but I sent it in. I never heard back. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not that prominent at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think you are. My high school doesn't even know I'm alive, so you know.
Well, if you get in, man, my best man at my wedding got into the West Deptford, New Jersey, his high school Hall of Fame, and
you go.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a big soccer coach.
I assume that it's like baseball. There's a big room with plaques, and people walk around, silently in awe of the greatness of the alumni of Mattawan Regional High School. But I mean, they never wrote back, unless it's in my spam folder somewhere. They never wrote back. So who knows?
Well, Greg, we appreciate the time and enjoy the series and enjoy Vegas.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right. Greg Wyshynski, senior NHL writer at ESPN. And what great state is he from, PK?
Jersey, man. And he has a thing for Vegas? Yeah, because you're from Jersey.
I've connected with that town for whatever reason. Probably the food and the Osmond shows would be my guess. There's an outside chance it's the gambling, possibly, theoretically.
I saw Donnie Marie at their show.
Is there more access to golf in Vegas than in Jersey? I mean, there's a lot of people in Jersey that like L.A., not a lot of courses, hard to get on.
Vegas golf is so dang expensive.
Yeah, everything in Vegas. It used to be Vegas was cheap because they wanted to get you there, and they got over that now, everything.
There's one course in Vegas, and I don't know why, but in their computer system, they have me as a resident. So they give me the resident rate.
All right. Guess where you play?
Can you make a tea time for me?
And when in doubt, I have my wife go in, and she has a better chance of sweet-talking them into that we're residences. Yeah. But Mesquite will give you the St. George people the Nevada resident if you say you're from St. George. We found that out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because obviously they draw a lot of people.
As a local.
Yeah, I mean, they probably draw as many people from Utah as they do from Nevada.
Sure.
I mean,
they basically sit halfway between St. George and Vegas, so.
Yeah, and there's a lot of courses there.
Yeah.